Classic? What's up, everybody? It's Adam for Rando Reviews, and today I'm going to be reviewing something that's very hot in the gaming community right now. It's the Sony PlayStation Classic console that came out in the beginning of December, and there's been a lot of people not really liking the Sony PlayStation Classic because we kind of got spoiled when Nintendo put out their Super Nintendo Classic and NES Classics. Well, that's the bottom of it. The NES Classic, so they had some big shoes to fill when they announced the Sony PlayStation Classic. Now, when they released it, or at least they announced it, they talked about 5 games to kind of get people excited, including like Final Fantasy VII, Ridge Racer 4, and Metal Gear Solid. And then when the full games were announced, it kind of left a lot to be desired. Now, there's still some cool games on here, but there's other games that you probably have not heard of, like Jumpin' Jack Flash or Jumping Flash, whatever that was, not a Whoopi Goldberg movie, Intelligent Cube, Mr. Driller, games I've never heard of. But I was like, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because the Nintendo Classic had some pretty piss poor games in there as well. I'm looking at you, Balloon Fight, but I was like, you know what? I wasn't a huge PlayStation 1 fan. I kind of got into PlayStation more in PS2 days, but I was like, hey, I'll give it a chance. So I pre-ordered it, and now I've had a few weeks with the device, so I want to give you my thoughts on it. So there's 20 games included on the console, like Resident Evil Director's Cut. You've got Ridge Racer 4, Cool Borders 2, Twisted Metal, Final Fantasy VII, and like I said, some of those other games like Jumping Flash, Intelligent Cube, things like that. Now, a lot of people noticed that on some of these games, like Tekken 3, which is one of my favorite PS1 games, it's the European version or the PAL version, which plays slightly slower. Now, there's probably a multitude of reasons why it was on there. I don't know, but yes, you can notice a difference. So for anyone that tells you I don't notice a difference, you will notice a difference if you've played the games originally. But if someone never told me that and I was playing Tekken 3 for the first time, I would just say, oh, that must be just how this game is. Because if you played the first Tekken, it was a lot slower than Tekken 2, which was a lot slower than Tekken 3. But it's one of those things where I understand the grievances, but for just the Joe Schmo going up and down the street and they see this, say, hey, I used to play some PlayStation games, this would probably be a good system for them. A lot of people say this system is pretty terrible because it seems like they just slapped it together to get it out before the Christmas season to make some money. When you see the menu system of this compared to the Nintendo Classic and the SNES Classic, yes, this is very bare bones. It starts up with the Sony PlayStation 1 kind of intro, and you're like, oh, it's nostalgia. Then it just goes to a very plain carousel of games, just a very piss poor background. And so it does look slapped together. It does look like someone just said, hey, put out a simple emulator, put some ROMs on there, ship it out to the public, let's make a quick buck. So for the complaints for the PlayStation Classic, believe me, I get it, they're valid, and they make sense. So with all the bad things about this system, there are some good things. There are a community of people out there that are working on making this a better console for PlayStation games. Yes, it sucks that it has to come to other people instead of Sony to make this the system it can be. So they're putting out these new hacks left and right, which they're updating almost daily with ways to add new Sony ROMs to your system because they're using a open source emulator. So they found a pretty easy way to hack the system. So much smarter people than me are working on that right now to make it so you can better use this PlayStation Classic console. So let's look at the PlayStation Classic for what it is. Now, just like the NES and SNES Classic, it comes with 2 controllers and they feel really good. They remind me a lot of the regular PlayStation controller, not much difference at all. It comes with an HDMI cable and a micro USB to plug it in. However, it does not come with the USB brick that goes into your wall to actually plug it in, which kind of sucks. So if you get this for, say, Christmas morning and you do not have one of those USB bricks to plug it into your wall outlet, you cannot play this. But my NES and SNES Classic did not come with one either, so I can't really fault Sony, but it still sucks. It was $100. You should have put that in there. So I was more of a Nintendo person growing up. So the SNES and NES Classic are more my type of consoles. And I didn't get into Sony until PlayStation 2. But it's kind of cool that I get to go back and play some of these games that I never really got into. Like I played Resident Evil 2, but I never really played the first one. I never played Ridge Racer 4. I never played Destruction Derby. Some of these games are probably not that great. They probably don't hold up like some of the NES games do or the SNES games do, but it gives me a chance to kind of relive the mid-90s that I didn't get to experience because I did not have a PlayStation 1. Yes, they're missing games like Tomb Raider, Crash Bandicoot, Parasite Eve, games that we know and love from the PlayStation, but it gives me a chance to check out what Jumping Flash is or Intelligent Cube. Yes, they might not be my favorite games, but I would have never played those games if it wasn't for the Sony PlayStation Classic. So if you're looking for a retro game console, I would definitely suggest the NES or SNES Classic over the PlayStation Classic any day of the week. However, if you are fond of the Sony PlayStation from the 90s and you're like, I want to go back and play Final Fantasy VII, I want to play games like Super Puzzle Fighter Turbo 2 or whatever that Tetris Bejeweled Street Fighter clone is, which I have not played yet, but I hear it's really awesome. You might love this thing. This is probably more for the person that's walking through Target, walking through Walmart, and go, oh man, it's a PlayStation. I remember that. Hey, that'd be kind of cool to put in as a gift for my kids to learn about games that I used to play as a kid. Something like that. I can understand that. If you're a hardcore gaming person, this is probably not for you. It would probably best suit you to just download the games that you like through the Sony PlayStation Store or through other means, because that's going to give you a better version than what the ones you're going to find right here on the PlayStation Classic. So it's probably not for diehards, but for just casual gamers or people that haven't gamed since the 90s, they're probably going to find a lot to love about the Sony PlayStation Classic. So to me, that's what this is geared towards. And if you want to take it to the next level, like I said, there's a community out there that are making this even better, or actually making it to where it should be, I should say. It's just okay right now. It's not as great as the SNES or the NES Classic. It's just okay. Are there better alternatives? Yes. However, this is just a, right there in the package, you plug it in, you play it. There's not all the steps like you have to go through with a Raspberry Pi, things like that. Like I said, this is for the average, typical consumer / casual gamer. That's what the Sony PlayStation Classic's for, and so that's who I think will really enjoy it. I think it's already on sale for like $75, $80 at a lot of places, so you can actually get this for even cheaper than what I paid for it, which was $100 when I pre-ordered it. So get it for that price. Why not? I mean, it's a cool thing to have. It's a cool conversation piece, and it's got some cool games on there, even though the ones that have the European PAL versions, it's still fun to pick up and play Tekken sometimes, or get into Final Fantasy VII all over again. So like I said, hardcore gamers, I totally understand your frustrations, but for the casual gamer, I think you might like the Sony PlayStation Classic, especially if you had one of these in the mid-90s. So that's my review for the Sony PlayStation Classic. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button below, like, comment, all those different things that you do with YouTube channels. I want to thank you guys for checking out this episode, and we'll see you next time for more Rando reviews. See you guys.